The Wyoming legislature convened on Tuesday, and lobbyists Ken Hamilton and Brett Moline have been in Cheyenne representing Farm Bureau. Wednesday, the governor presented his State of the State address, where he focused on the budget. Although this year is not a budget session, the revenue conditions of the state have forced the legislative body to look at budget issues. The revenue forecast, while better than previous years, still showed income into the state starting to slow considerably. This past fire season also resulted in significant expenses. The state also lost $700 million in abandoned mine money previously committed to Wyoming. The governor is recommending a reduction in the standard budget of over 6%. He is also recommending that 86 vacant positions be eliminated. In spite of these cuts, he did recommend $8.5 million for salary increases, $5 million added to the funding for the Wildlife and Natural Resource Trust, $25 million for local government, and $20 million for landfills. Most of these recommendations are one-time funding recommendations, and his budget did result in approximately $20 million left over for legislative-driven priorities. With Senate File 7. It's dealing with conservation district special expertise, and it would give conservation districts the ability to have special status, which would give the districts better standing when dealing with the federal management planning activities. This bill passed out of the Senate Ag Committee on Thursday. House Bill 85, Municipal Jurisdiction, would reduce the distance outside the city limits that cities would have jurisdiction down to 1/2 mile. In some instances, this jurisdiction extends to 6 miles outside the city limits. This bill has been referred to the House Corporations Committee. House Bill 106, Conservation Easements, would outline that state funding could not be allocated to conservation easements. Farm Bureau strongly supports this bill. This bill has been referred to the House Ag Committee. Lastly, I want to talk about House Bill 126. It's dealing with agricultural operations and making it a crime to photograph or videotape ag operations without the consent of the owner. This bill was brought about in response to tactics recently used by agencies such as HSUS regarding animal abuse cases. This bill has been received for introduction. Now I'll give you over to Brett.
Thanks, Dawn. A few bills that I'd like to visit with. One bill that we worked on Thursday is the eminent domain dealing with wind collector systems. This would be dealing with the lines that take the electricity from the turbines to where it's hooked up to the grid. The bill wanted to have a 2-year moratorium on the ability of wind companies to be able to use eminent domain. This bill was amended and we're down to a 1-year moratorium. So we have 1 year to get figured out how we are going to come up with a consensus on what avenues we will use to go forward with wind collector systems. There's 2 bills that will be dealing with increasing revenue to the Wyoming Transportation Department. First bill is House Bill 69. This bill will add 10 cents a gallon of fuel taxes, which will then be distributed to the counties, cities, and the State Department of Transportation. We strongly do not support this bill. We have strong policy against any increase in fuel taxes. The other bill dealing with revenue to the Transportation Department is House Bill 70. On your registration for all vehicles, the portion that goes to the state will be doubled. Farm Bureau does have policy against increasing fees, and these are 2 bills that we will be extremely active in. House Bill 81 deals with large project funding for the Wildlife Trust Fund. According to statute, any activity, any project over $200,000 has to come to the legislature to be approved. Out of the 12 projects that are over $200,000, 10 of them are dealing with conservation easements and amount to over $6 million. Wyoming Farm Bureau's position is this is not a wise use of state funds, and we need to be careful on how we are investing state lands for state money for the future. Another Senate file that will be coming up in the future is Senate File 70. That's land possessor duty to the trespasser. According to other industry representatives, this bill is attempting to put into statute what is case law. That a trespasser that is an adult over the age of 18, the landowner owes no duty to point out any hazardous situation. Concerns that I hope will be alleviated is that children are exempt from this statute. We will continue to monitor this bill and report back on where we will be in the future. We've been assured that it is just putting into statute what is current case law. Well, that wraps up what we want to cover this week. We thank you for tuning in. Join us again next week, and we will have an additional update for week 2 of the Wyoming State Legislature. Thank you.